Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. As you can see, I'm on a new account because I am going to be doing an event inspired by Kairos time. I'm going to be doing the Super Damage Olympics. And the last Super Damage Olympics was quite a while ago, so this is an updated version, I guess, although it might have some mistakes. This is also a Power 1 Olympics, so instead of all of them being Power 11, they're only Power 1. Because I don't have a maxed out account. So they can't use their star powers to get some extra damage in. So yeah, it's like a Power 1 Olympics. So, well, before we get into the video, I would like to shout out a channel. It's called Liam and Decland Roblox. I'm giving them a shout out because they gave me one, so return the favor. Yeah. And if you're wondering why they just gave me a random shout out, if you came from their channel wondering, it's actually because I'm their classmate, so they wanted, like, if they thought it would be fun. And so, yeah. Come on, do it. Commit for the Godfather. Yeah, go check out their channel if you haven't seen it in the title yet. Of course, after you watch this video, go check out their channel. Of course, you have to finish this video first. Anyway, let's get into it. Just kidding. Before we get into it, there are a few rules. Like 2. Spawners like Jesse, only 3 attacks from their spawn will come out. Yeah. So yeah, only 3. Only 3 attacks from their super. But they're allowed to do more than 3 attacks if they're not a spawner. They just have like a lot of projectiles. So of course that's allowed. And the second rule is that even if it's impossible to hit all the projectiles, I will still count the damage. Like for example, you have a brawler and it's impossible to hit all their shots with their super. I'm going to count all their shots, so they really have an advantage here. I'm not going to say who it is because that might spoil it a bit. But let's get into the video. So with 0 damage, we have Poco, Rosa, 8-bit, Jackie, Gus, Pam, or as many people like to call her, Pamela. Without his hardcore star power, Edgar cannot do any damage to super without her hardcore star power. Then there's Jean, then Max, Sprout, Gray, Doug, Leon, Sandy, Buzz, Lola, Artie, Cordelius, Charlie, and Charlie. So those are the characters with 0 damage. Now let's get to the ones that actually deal damage. I will also make a tier list at the end of the video of which super that does 0 damage is actually like the best of all 19 supers that don't deal damage. With 360, we have Lou. So yeah, he can deal a bunch of 40 damages in all that deal 360 damage. Next up is Gale, who can do 420 damage. So yeah, his super is pretty good, but damage is just not his thing. Next up is Belle with 500. I actually did not allow her to mark her enemy first, but if you were going to allow her to do that, she gets a score of 675. So she would actually still be ahead of the theme brawlers and behind the theme brawlers, because our next brawler does 700 damage. Our next brawler who deals 700 damage is actually B. So yeah, she blasted and there's 700 damage. Our first spawner in the game is Jessie. See, which she actually ties with another spawner. So 3 attacks from her turret. Yeah, so in all, if she hit three times, hit the turret three times, it would do a total of 780. And now the brawler that ties with her is Mr. P. So yeah, Mr. P, he again 3 attacks, and his porter damage is the same as Jessie's turret damage. So he got 780 as well, so they tie with 780 damage. Next up, beating Jessie and Mr. P by 20 damage is Tara, who deals 800 damage with her super. Next up is BB with 900 damage, and she actually ties with another brawler. I'm only gonna allow 1 bounce for BB. So yeah, and that 1 bounce deals 900 damage. And it ties her with the next brawler. Tying with BB is Mortis, who also deals 900 damage with his bats. Next up is Bull with 960 damage. And he also ties with another brawler. Next up is El Primo, who jumps to 960 damage and also jumps to tying with Bull. Next up is a 3-way tie between Bonnie, and Yalla! So yeah, Bonnie can do 1,000 damage with her jump. So tying with Bonnie is Surge, who also deals 1,000 damage with his jump. Also like Bonnie with the jump. And tying with Bonnie and Surge is Ruffs, which, like Belle, I did not allow him to start out with a damage buff. But if you want to let him use his buff, then he can deal 1,200 damage, which would tie him with 5 other brawlers. So if you want to let him use his buff, then you can tie him with the brawlers that have 1,200, which are coming right after I talk about this brawler who deals 1,020. Just beat these guys by 20. And that is Otis, who deals damage 3 times and ends up with 1,020 damage. Next up is Nita with 1,200 damage. So yeah, if the bear swipes 3 times, which he swiped a lot of times, but I'm not counting those. But if he swipes 3 times, then it is a total of 1,200 damage. Next up is Ems, who also ties with Nita for 1,200. So yeah, she ties with Nita and 3 other brawlers. Tying with Nita and 2 other brawlers is Stu, who can do damage quite a lot of times and ends up with 1,200. Also, when I was reviewing Ems, if I said 2 other brawlers, I meant 3. Just saying. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. I don't know. I'm just making sure. So yeah, Stu ties with Nita, Ems, and 2 other brawlers. Next is Fang with 1,200, just like the others. So he ties with Nita, Ems, Stu, and one other brawler. And tying with Nita, Ems, Stu, and Fang is Sam, who also deals 1,200 damage. So, like I said, if you want to include Ruffs with these guys, you can, but I decided not to. So, yeah. Now is Frank, who just beat the other 5 people by 40 damage. So yeah, in all, just like his attack, his super does 1,240 damage. Tying with Frank, we have Maisie, who also does 1,240. So yeah, it's a tie between Frank and Maisie for 1,240 damage. Next up is Byron, who can do 1,500 damage with one super. So yeah, that's some pretty good super damage. 1,500. Next up, tying with Byron is actually one of my classmates' names, is Willow. Originally, she would deal 0 damage. Oh my god, I lost. Oh my god, I missed it. What the heck? Originally, she would do 0 damage, but since we're facing against bots, you can't mind control them. And so, as a replacement, it would deal 1,500 damage for special targets. So, I guess I'll give Willow 1,500. She's also tying. So yeah, she tied with Byron and one more brawler. Tying with Byron and Willow is Ash, who also deals 1,500, just like them. Next up is Grom, who does 1,600 damage. So, yeah, 1,600 damage. And he does not tie with any brawlers. He's the only one who does 1,600 at power level 1. Next is Meg, and with her mecha, her super can do 1,700 damage. So if I were to if I were to try regular Meg super, it wouldn't deal any damage. But the mecha can deal 1,700, and that's what I'll count. Next up is Chuck, who when you run someone over, it does 1,750 damage. So that gives Chuck 1,750 damage. Next up is Nani, who with her bot deals 1,800 damage. So yeah, that gets her own spot with no other people tying with her. 1,800. Next up is Chester, and his most damaging super is obviously his explosion one, which deals 1,880 damage. So that's his score, 1,880. Next up is Amber, who can deal 1,920 in total. Psych! Amber actually gets 0 damage, because to activate her super, she needs an attack, and those are not allowed. So she actually gets 0, because she's not allowed to do an attack. So yep, Amber actually gets 0. Subscribe if I fooled you. Just kidding. Finally getting us to the 2000s is Tick, who does exactly 2,000 damage and ties with another brawler. Tying with Tick is actually Spike, so he deals some damage over time, but in total it will do 2,000 damage. So he ties with Tick. At 2,160, we have Colt. Yeah, who deals a lot of damage with super. And exactly by a lot, I mean 2,160, like I just said. With 2,200 damage, beating Colt by just 40 points, 40 damage is Dynamite, who deals 2,200 damage with his super. Next up is Eve, if all of her babies go for the same target, it will deal 2,400 damage. I can't find the perfect spot, so just imagine like I hit the third baby. And if I did, then that would be 2,400 damage, so that's her score. Tying with Eve is Buster. If he gets all 800, which I did not nail this time, let me just repeat that. Coming with... I'm doing this wrong. Wait, just give me one more shot. Okay, I'm waiting for this one. Oh my god. Tying with Eve is Buster, who can deal his damage 3 times. So we said no attacks, but it's not him attacking, it's the bot attacking. We specifically said that the brawler cannot attack, but it never said that the enemies can't attack. So I'm going to count him. So yeah, Buster. So 800 times 3 is 2,400. So Buster ties with Eve for 2,400. Next up is Mandy, who can deal 2,500 with her super. So yeah, Mandy can do 2,500 damage with her super. Next up is a brawler with a very exact number. When Pearl is at full heat, she can do 2,712 damage with her super. Next is Shelly. When she hits all her bullets, it does 2,880 damage. Next up is Griff, getting us to the 3,000s with a complete score of 3,300. Next up is Piper, who when you land all 4 bombs, it does 3,600 damage. Yep. Next up is Rico. When you hit all the bouncy balls, it does 3,840 damage. And if the balls bounce back to the robot, that does not deal extra damage. So no, 3,840 is the maximum for a power level 1 Rico. Next up, getting us into the 4,000s is Colette, who got exactly 4,000. So yeah, Colette gets a score of 4,000 and does not tie with anyone. Yeah, the latest brawlers have not been tying. Next up is Janet, and if you land all of the bombs in total, you can do 4,200 damage. Next up is Bo, and if you hit all 3 of his mines, it will deal 4,320 damage. We have arrived into the top 5. Again, 3 projectiles from Penny, including her fire. So, yeah, in total, that would all do 5,976 damage. And don't include that 4th bomb that just dropped, because that was not part of it. But if all the 3 and all of their fire would do 5,976 damage. Oh, and also if I didn't just say it just now, Penny gets us into the top 5, so Penny is actually number 5. So there are 4 brawlers left. Next up is Hank, who can do 7,920 if all of his fish torpedoes land. And just look how fast he can take out the boss. Like, that's just crazy. But that doesn't count, that's not all of the damage. That's just, so yeah, only including 1 super, 7,920. So Hank gets 7,920. And that gets us into the top 3, because Hank is number 4. So who do you think is the top 3? number 3 is Crow. Okay, that didn't count. I didn't do that correctly. Okay, number 3 is Crow. You can do a total of 9,280 damage. So that's number 3. So he gets the bronze medal. And number 2 is Brock. Even though it is physically impossible to hit all of his rockets, I said at the start of the video, if it's not possible to hit all the projectiles and move, it will still count all the projectiles. And that's the same case with Brock. It shoots out 9 rockets, and in total, 9 rockets would do 9,360 damage. So just beating Crow by 80 damage. And number 1 is Barley. And even though he can't hit all of his shots because that's physically impossible, just like Brock, the rule says that even if it's physically impossible to hit all their shots, I will still count all their shots. And that really helped out Barley because in total, he does 10,200 damage if all of them hit, including the poison on the ground. So that are the results. No, that is the damage Super Olympics. And now, as I said earlier in the video, I will now judge all of the 0 damage supers and rank them.